Mechagon Junkyard has returned to the Season 4 Mythic Plus dungeon pool with the new seasonal affix Shrouded. My name is Naguura, and in this video I will go over the most important mechanics to watch out for in this dungeon. Junkyard is a very open dungeon. You can choose which boss to fight first, but watch out for the HK8 aerial unit because it is patrolling above one of the bosses and it makes it unnecessarily difficult to fight a boss under it. You can open the map inside the dungeon before entering the keystone and check which bosses are safe to go to. When you defeat a boss, the HK8 will fly to a different boss, always towards the north. So if it starts out on Naeno and Trixie, it will move to King Gobbamak next and then to Gunker. Another important thing to note are the bots scattered around the dungeon. There are 3 different bots and they are always located in the same positions. If you click on them, you gain a buff depending on which bot it is. Keep in mind that only one player can get a buff from each individual bot, and every player can have all 3 different buffs at the same time. The shock bots give you a very powerful buff, proccing a chain lightning on enemies off of your damage spells once in a while. This buff scales with haste, so make sure to choose the haste stat for the Shrouded affix. Ideally, your group should pick up as many shock bots as possible early on, so take a look at their positions and create your route accordingly. The Welding bot gives you a 10% more health and healing increase. This should be picked up by the tank first. And the Grease bot gives you movement speed and haste. This can be good in combination with a shock bot. Keep in mind the buffs disappear if you die, so try to pick up new bots after a while. Once you're in the Gunker Area, you will have to kill 3 toxic monstrosities to spawn the boss. Those mobs will drag players towards them and at the same time cast a big AoE circle around them, so make sure to dodge out of that. There are a lot of slime elementals in this area, try to stun or dodge their charge. And the toxic lurkers need to be interrupted on their suffocating smog cast, because it stuns a random player. Gunker himself revolves around the toxic goop ability. If you touch the goop, you will be imprisoned in a slime blob, and other players will have to damage you out or dispel the disease off of you. But there are squared bots rotating around the boss, and if you stand within their circle, you are immune to the toxic goop, and they also cleanse the floor. Once in a while, the boss will cast Splatter, imprisoning one of the bots in a slime blob. You either have to damage them out or dispel the disease off of them so they can continue cleansing. Additionally, the boss will cast Toxic Wave, sending out a wave of goop in all directions. Make sure you are standing within a squared bot safe zone during this ability. Moving on to the next boss's area, Naeno and Trixie. The most dangerous mobs in this area are the crawlers. They buff themselves with an AoE damage spell and it cannot be stopped, so make sure to use defensives and be ready to heal the incoming damage. Additionally, there are a few mobs that cast healing spells. Try to interrupt casts that contain the word repair, as it usually is a heal. Next up is the boss, Trixie and Naeno. They don't share HP, and if one of them is defeated, the other one becomes empowered, so try to kill them at the same time. Naeno periodically jumps into his mecha cycle and charges across the room. Make sure you check the direction he is charging to, because it does very heavy damage if you get hit. If Naeno is not in his mecha cycle, he will cast a frontal towards the tank and sometimes charges to an area and deal high damage to anyone being hit. Trixie is a caster and spamcasts Taste. This damages random players and needs to be interrupted as much as you can to avoid random deaths. Occasionally, she will cast Electric Slide, hovering in the air and doing damage to anyone underneath her. And additionally, she will cast Mega Taste. This is a really long uninterruptible cast, and to avoid it, the marked player has to enter the smoke cloud left behind by Naeno. You can also stop the cast by using abilities like Vanish or Feign Death. Next up is King Gobbamak. Let's go over some notable trash mobs here. The shamans have 2 casts that should be interrupted, so they can be annoying to deal with. Their Stone Skin cast buffs a nearby mob with a damage reduction and CC immunity, and their Grasping Hex roots your whole group and inflicts damage. The bullies cast an interruptible Enrage and additionally cast a long-range frontal towards a random player. This can be difficult to dodge if you pull multiple of them, so watch out for that. The boss itself constantly spawns Scrapbone Grunters throughout the fight. These mobs aren't too dangerous, but can quickly become overwhelming if you don't deal with them properly. Once the boss gains 100 energy, he will cast Charged Smash onto the tank. This does high damage and splits among all players in the impact zone. Every player that gets hit by the smash gets a debuff called Electric Charge. With this debuff you can activate the 4 shock coils located around the room and the robot located towards the cave. Once they are activated, they will one-shot close by grunters for 20 seconds, so make sure you activate them. Every 45 seconds the boss also casts Rumble. This ability deals AoE damage to everyone during the channel and additionally spawns falling rocks you need to avoid. The most dangerous part of this fight happens whenever the 2 AoE abilities happen in quick succession. Charge Smash doing AoE damage to the group and Rumble right afterwards, or vice versa. So use defensive CDs for this combo. While moving to the last boss, watch out to not stray too far from the path, because there are stealthed prowlers patrolling around. But one of them is actually a shrouded infiltrator, so you can grab him for an extra buff. The trash before the last boss includes renormalizers. These mobs cast Enlarge and Shrink. Enlarge buffs a mob with 100% increased damage, so you either want to drop that cast or let a mage spell steal it for a big damage boost. The Shrink cast, on the other hand, debuffs a player and makes them do 99% less damage and healing. Additionally, it also physically shrinks the player character, and anyone stepping on them will stun them, so watch out. Now onto the last boss. The HK8 has 3 phases and rotates between them. In phase 1 you fight a Tankbuster MK1, and while you are fighting this mob, the boss will spawn bots around the room. They cannot be killed but can be CC'd. You should try to CC them as fast as possible and then move the Tankbuster away from them. The boss also casts Cannon Blast onto the area, creating a big line of swirlies that have to be avoided. The tank also needs to mitigate the Wreck cast, a Tankbuster with an additional debuff increasing subsequent casts of the same ability. The Tankbuster MK1 also casts Fulminating Step onto a random player, and it does heavy damage and leaves behind a dot. This can be especially deadly if casted on the same player multiple times in a row. Once you finish off the Tankbuster, the intermission phase starts. Either the north or the south overcharge will activate, and you have to move there. To get to the overcharge coil, you have to dodge various traps. One trick is to jump over the beams if you want to be extra fast. This is easier if you jump over the beams rotating towards you instead of away from you. Once you reach the top, you have to click on the coil and channel a cast, slowly draining its energy. When it reaches 0, the boss will go haywire and fall to the ground, taking triple damage for 30 seconds. This is the perfect moment to use Bloodlust and all offensive CDs. If you don't finish the boss off here, he will fly back up and phase 1 will start over again. So there's a pretty big time loss if you don't make the damage check. But once you manage to finish off the HK8, the dungeon is finished and you can collect your loot. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the guides we've got coming up for other Season 4 dungeons. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in Season 4.